What does Evan Williams think the Packers need to take the next step as a playoff contender? Plus, what he wishes he'd heard when he was a rookie with the NFL draft upon us.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's NFL Draft Day episode brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions do apply. I sat down with Evan Williams in Green Bay 24 hours from the draft to talk about what he wishes he'd heard when he was a rookie, the kind of advice he'd like to give this rookie class. We talk about Derek Harmon, who he didn't play with at Oregon, but of course he got a chance to watch. Could be a Packers pick. We talked about some of the criticisms of Teteroa McMillan from Todd McShay reporting, hey, look, the work ethic wasn't always there, but the tape is good. So how do you square those things? Evan Williams with some really interesting things to say about that. Plus, what does this rising sophomore think the Packers need to compete, to make this team better? What players does he see potentially elevating the Packers that are already on the team? Let's talk to Evan about all of that. So we're here a year past when you had the opportunity to get drafted, and now we're in Green Bay, site of the draft. There's going to be a whole new group of players that now are going to look at you the same way you looked at the guys on the team last year. Have you had time to think about what that difference is going to be like for you?
Not really, honestly. I've honestly been more just excited that I'm not the one going through this kind of nerve-wracking time. This time last year, it was just, it's a lot of emotions, a lot of stuff building up for some, a complete decision that's out of your hands. And so, it's a little nerve-wracking, the whole process of, Combine, Pro Day, going from event to event. But I'm excited for kind of just that dynamic, getting able to be the guy that people can look to, once they first come into the building to, establish that first connection. And I'm excited to see, where we go in this draft.
The last time we talked, you mentioned wanting to add as a leader. We heard from Tucker Kraft that he wants to do that. We've heard from Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur that they want Jordan Love to do that. Why do you think that's the place that this team is right now? Youngest team in the league. That would be the obvious answer, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think some leadership would bring to the Packers?
Yeah, I feel like it would just bring a sense of stability, a sense that you have just a group of people that you can rely on when you face adversity in games. It's kind of just about having a strong dynamic and building that foundation from the ground up. And you need a couple of guys to step up to be able to do that. And so I feel like coaches are just looking forward to somebody. I'm trying to everybody tries and does their little parts, but just for a couple people to be the guy that people can look at when you run into adversity, and feel like our team is taking strides in that department specifically.
There was adversity in these big games, the NFC North games. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people on Twitter about the record in the NFC North and all that stuff, and then the playoff game. How do you find that gear that you need in those big games when you're trying to be an NFC contender?
Yeah, a lot of it is just about staying the course. That's something we said a lot last year. Just because in this business, adversity is really guaranteed. Like, you're going to run into some good opponents. We had a stacked division last year, and you're going to have those games where, you're in a hostile environment and whatever, the weather's not favorable or whatever. And so you just have to be a group that's resilient enough, kind of has built a callus throughout this offseason and, now going into the season, you're resilient enough to where you're not fazed by, those type of situations. As a matter of fact, you embrace it, when you step into those situations. So, yeah, and that starts right now. We're coming back, getting back into workouts and stuff, and it's just kind of building that togetherness, and hopefully when the going gets tough, we'll be a little more connected.
How do you hope the vibes, the culture changes as you move into 2025? Understanding the season didn't end the way you wanted it. Staying the course is one thing in terms of like wanting to be consistent, right? Like you don't want to panic, you don't want to get out of yourself. But the course last year was not good enough. I remember BJ Raji once upon a time talking about, there was this Winston Churchill quote about sometimes your best isn't good enough. You need to be better than that to win. How do you affect that change? How do you find that difference? How do you hope that you're able to grow and evolve as a team?
Yeah, I think first, whenever I'm faced with a challenge like that, I look to myself, right? You look what you can, do personally to get yourself in the best shape you can, get yourself just in the best position to, be able to have some sort of influence on the team. And then, you just try to have a little bit of impact on the guy next to you. I feel like that's where it starts in everybody, really. First, taking accountability with yourself, your own actions, your own habits, and then seeing if you could, rub that off to the guy next to you. And then, hopefully by the time it comes to the season, we're a connected enough group to where, we feel like nothing can really stop us. And so, I'm a guy that, definitely looks inwards initially, but I feel like I can definitely improve on that, being able to just vocalize, a little more, during especially these periods when you have people coming into the building, and just try to make us as connected a group as we can.
What would you, there's going to be a new set of Packers coming in. What would you want to have heard now that you've been in the league for a year? What would you have wanted to hear when you came in that now you can say to these young guys?
Oh, man.
And maybe you don't really know the answer for another couple of years.
Like it could be the case. I'm young still. I think I'm young for this organization, but
the youngest team in the league. Like, you're a veteran now.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I'm a vet, I guess. But I would say it's just, I wish somebody told me that, everything's going to end up all right. It's definitely a period in your life where you have a lot of rapid changes, right? You're so unsure of, okay, I don't even know what city I'm going to go to for the next 3-4 years, and there's going to be a whole set of coaches and people I need to, gain their respect. And so, at least for me, I was just very, caught up in all those thoughts, really just nervous, uptight for that moment. I wish somebody told me just to live in it and just like let your character lead you, through this path. Because, at times like that, especially for me, I was, doubtful if you're good enough to you're going to have those periods of self-doubt, especially, during these periods. But yeah, I would just say to, trust your preparation, trust everything you've gone through.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But just to understand that, that's led them to the point that they're at now, hoping for their name to be called. That's a pretty special place in itself. And, just let them know that work will carry them to where they need to go.
What do you think you would want? So, okay, this new group of guys is going to come in. What do you want to be able to say about the Packers in 2025 when you say, hey, this year we're about this, and when you come in, you got to be about this if you want to contribute to winning?
Yeah, I would just say you need to be tough first and foremost, both physically and mentally. I feel like we're an organization just historically in the past that has proven that, that we're going to be a physical group. We're going to, hit you in the mouth, and it's up to you to make the next move. But, that's what we're about. And so, that's really some each year you look back and hope that you put a physical brand of ball on tape. But No, I feel like just with everybody getting, or I can speak for the defense, but with everybody getting more comfortable, another year with this coaching staff, we're not starting from ground zero, which is where we were last year. I feel like we're going to play a real physical brand of ball and, just be a team that, is really tough to beat.
All right, we get more with Evan Williams on draft day next on Locked On Packers. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. That's because Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and you can start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Gametime, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. The Bucks and Pacers square off Game 3 in Milwaukee Friday night. They go head-to-head with the NFL Draft. You want to go? Gametime. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Plus, with all-in pricing, that means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
Do you feel like there is some spillover offense to defense in terms of that brand of ball? Because like last year, we saw this offense, and look, you don't have anything to compare it to in the NFL, but this was an offense that said, we're going to pound you, we are going to punch you in the mouth, we're going to come downhill and let Josh Jacobs set the tone for this team. And you told me the last time we talked that Jeff Hafley all season was preaching, we're going to be the most physical team on the field every week. Do you feel like there's some spillover and that maybe having that cohesion is good for your team culture?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it all feeds into, putting
If you're a finesse offense, I feel like it's hard to be, a punch you in the mouth defense.
Yeah, absolutely. You said if you're a finesse offense. I mean, I feel like we have a physical enough.
No, but I'm not saying the Packers were. I'm saying if that were the case, like if you're an offense that's like, we're going to spread everybody out, we're going to be so cute, and then the defense is like, no, we want to get at. Like, I feel like that's a hard thing to try and do.
I wouldn't say so. I feel like, we're in different rooms a lot, offense and defense. So I feel like as a defense, when we meet, that's really when the day starts. At least for me, just because we're setting the tone for what our expectations are for a given day. And so I feel like that spillover doesn't really happen from team to team. But for our team, we don't even have to worry about that because we have somebody or just a lot of guys, Josh, and just the type of brand of ball we play on the offensive side. I feel like, and it'll only get better, coming into this next year. I feel like that'll only improve. And in practice, you got guys going at it, and that's the best part is that you get to have that element of competition and go against the best of the best every day, and kind of see who's going to be more physical day to day. And I feel like that's only going to elevate where we end up this season.
There's some players in this draft that you got a chance to go against. I'm not gonna ask you to stump for anybody and say, hey, I would love to have this guy, but you played in the Pac-12 against some really good offensive players. There's some big names, guys like Tedero McMillan, Arizona, like Big 12, but USC. There's a lot of different players that you guys got a chance to see. When you were in college, who was the best player when you watched that guy on tape? You went, okay, we're gonna this is gonna have to be that kind of thing.
That's a good question. Like
Doesn't have to be in this
I was
draft,
about
but
to say,
just give me an idea of like who that, if there was someone that really jumped out when you guys were doing game prep, and you went offensively, this is someone that we just like this is going to be a war.
like specifically at Oregon or
While you were in college.
Okay. Man, I would say they're not in this draft, but like they came out with me. It was probably Rome and Michael Penix and just that group. They just had a bunch of, a receiving core that was serious. And you kind of saw all three of them kind of had their own journeys, into the NFL this year, especially, Penix started to turn it up as the end of the season came. But that's probably who first comes to mind, just because those were my only 2 losses at Oregon. So I'm still a little salty about that. But those are guys that are going to have a long, fruitful career in the NFL.
I wanted to ask you about T-Mac because there have been some, and I can't speak to the reporting, but there's been some reports that like, hey, he only wanted to go hard in practice when a scout was there, those kinds of things. But then you turn on the tape and you go, like, he's a problem when you're trying to defend that guy. When as a player, when you hear the like, maybe he doesn't always work hard, but you see the productivity on tape. How do you react to that as a player?
Yeah.
Are you like, dang, like I wish he worked hard because like imagine how good he can be, or are you just like, whatever, man, like you do you?
Yeah, I feel like there's always going to be noise about or especially for certain draft prospects about your outside life. That's really what people want to tune into. Okay, who are you? When you're not in the facility, who, like what type of person are you? But I'm always somebody that believes that your tape tells the whole story. Like what my product is, who I am. That's your resume in this league. And so if you're consistently, week after week putting, some really good stuff on tape, then I mean, who cares if you don't like the game and then you come out and, play with passion and, play a physical, tough style of ball. Who's gonna say anything about your habits or it led you to, putting that product on tape. So I was never one to really feed into much of that noise about, he doesn't work hard or he doesn't do this. But
Greg Cosell once told me, we were talking about Johnny Manziel, so this is a long time ago now, but he said, I asked him about intangibles, and he said if it doesn't show up on the tape, it doesn't matter. Like if you call a player clutch, but they don't play great in the fourth quarter, then are they clutch?
Yeah, no.
We just have this idea, so it's like it either manifests on the field or it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And I'm all for, your habits, being consistent from off the field to the field. Well, that just works for me. And I'm speaking for myself that, the smoother that transition is to, where you're watching film at home and you just have a routine about your day, the easier it is to, put some good results on the field. And so I can't speak to anybody else that has different habits. Everybody has their own way that things work for them and their own routines, and that's fine for them. But yeah, I'm never one to really feed into much of the noise, especially if somebody else is talking about how hard somebody works or how much somebody watches tape. Just let me see how you play, the passion you play with, and that'll tell me most of the story.
I know you didn't overlap at Oregon because he was a Michigan State transfer, but I have to ask you about Derek Harmon because I think he's someone that a lot of fans are interested in. I assume you got a chance to watch some of him last year at Oregon.
Absolutely.
Those kinds of players at his size, 6'5", he's whether it's depending on what you listed in the program, what he was at the combine, 315, 320. The impact that those kinds of players can have on the field, and as a safety, that those kinds of guys can have on the game because they make your life easier if they're eating two or they're creating disruption. Give me a little Derek Harmon.
A lot easier. Make my life a lot easier. I wish I had him for my year at Oregon, but no. Watching him this year is all I can speak for. Who he is or any of that, but he's just a guy that's you turn on the tape and he's disruptive, right? He's somebody that's right in the middle of your offensive scheme, and is just causing havoc. And that's one of the most difficult things to do, especially as a D tackle. You have, you're facing double teams all game. It's easy for an offense to, try to plan for you. And if you're really just like a guy that causes havoc, and he's just a guy that is, huge but nimble enough to where, he can make somebody miss if he's trying to get a trap block or those type of things. And he was also, effective as a pass rusher last year, had a lot of sacks. And so, yeah, I mean, I can only speak for what I've seen from him. But as a fan, he seems like a guy that, would just, any defense would love to have just because he's, causing havoc right in the middle of the offense.
Yeah. You talked at the top about adversity and understanding that that's a prerequisite. That's going to happen. Who in the locker room is keeping you guys loose?
Keeping us loose. I would probably say just the guys with experience, right? Guys like, names that popped in my head is Josh Jacobs, or Sean Gary.
Josh seems like a fun-loving guy. Like,
he's
like
cool,
we're here to work, but also like when we need to relax.
Just
like,
understands the time.
Like would steal a turkey and run away with it.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Go back to the locker room. He's a guy that just has a quiet confidence about him, and you can't doubt the way that he works. He comes into practice every day with the right mentality, and just those are the guys that really bring you peace as a team. Because those are guys that you can that you can rely on when it's fourth quarter and okay, we got to bleed out this clock. We know we can hand him the ball because every day in practice he's going hard. He's demonstrated that he has those habits and he's a guy for our team. And so those are guys that really. Guys like, I could name our really whole team, but just a bunch of guys with experience. Jay Love, Josh, Rashawn Gary, even throw Quay, Kenny Clark, X, just all guys that, have had experience in this league, have done it for a long time. And, when the going gets tough, those are guys that cool under pressure.
What are you excited about Nate Hobbs being able to bring to your secondary?
Really, I know him from my brother played with him at Illinois when he was in college, and he came over to our house a couple times, and I remember my brother was telling me, he's like, Nate is the most explosive athlete I've ever seen. Like, he said he went to the rec to play some basketball with him, and he's over here 360 windmill, behind the back, and Bennett's struggling to get rim grazers and stuff at that time. But no, I think he's gonna bring just an explosive athleticism for sure. And from what I've seen, just a level of physicality that you need at the corner position. Somebody that comes up, isn't afraid to tackle, isn't afraid to, put their nose in it. And that's somebody that if you're able to cover as efficiently as he can and be physical in the run game, you kind of turn your mind off to that side as a safety. You're like, okay, I could trust this guy. He just really balances out our secondary really well.
Even more to come with Evan Williams next on Locked On Packers. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. In fact, mine is kind of just starting. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature helps you write job descriptions, then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, I'm not asking you to call anybody out. I'm not asking him to call anybody out. This is the opposite of that. You've got a lot of very talented teammates.
Oh, yeah.
So if you could take someone and say, hey, look, this player, if they take the next step in their progression for us this year in 2025, that is going to take us to the next level. Who is, aside from Evan Williams, who is that player?
Somebody that a lot of people are overlooking is Marshawn Lloyd, which might be a name that you haven't heard in a while, but
yeah. Who you got to play against in college.
Yeah, and he's a beast. But he's just a guy that has the right habits about him, and he's extremely God-gifted, talent-wise. Yeah. And he just kind of dealt with injuries a little bit this year, got the injury bug for most of the year was dealing with something new seemingly every week. And so you just pray for those guys that, you get healthy and you get on the field. And I feel like he's going to get healthy he's been getting healthy this offseason. But when he gets on the field, I feel like he's going to come back with a little bit of a vengeance. And if he could step into that, clean RB2 role, or even, rotating with Emmanuel kind of in that backfield, I feel like our offense can even be even more dangerous because he's a home run threat, right? He's somebody that can take it the distance after, making somebody miss. So, yeah, I feel like he would definitely be, dynamic.
He's a make you miss guy too. Like in the open field, like he will make you look silly.
Absolutely. And so I feel like he gets a shot this year. He's going to make our offense a lot more dynamic.
I'm sure you've heard about some of the conversations that Josh has mentioned about, hey, it would be nice to have someone who they set the tone in practice, defenses have to worry about. But from a defensive perspective, I think we talked a little bit about this last time that you were on, about facing an offense where you never know where that's going to come from versus having that guy. So, I mean, your offense, you've got a lot of different guys that have a lot of different skill sets. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, even Malik Heath and Bo Melton play important roles in the offense. But is there, whether it's a guy who takes a step forward or someone that you bring in, a trait that you feel like would make this offense elevate to that next level? I mean, maybe it is even someone like Marshawn Lloyd just being that other threat where it's like, for this passing game, they'd be impossible to deal with if they had a guy who could do this thing. Or do this thing consistently.
Yeah,
right?
I would, yeah.
Because we've seen guys like Dontavian Wicks kind of do it all, but you got to find that consistency.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not asking you to call anybody out. I'm asking you to praise somebody to say, look, if we could add this element, or someone on our team could add this element, you're really elevating what the offense can be.
Yeah, I would probably just say a true X receiver, just somebody that you throw on the backside and that can win 50-50 balls consistently. Just because I feel like if you have somebody opposite of, Jaden Reed and Romeo, a bunch of guys that are, really quick twitch in the slot, can even get open downfield. But if you have somebody that, even when they're covered, they're not covered, that demands a double team, right? From a defensive perspective, or, a D coordinator is going to lose sleep over not setting a double team that way. And then I feel like once you have somebody that demands the double, it just opens up the rest of the field to somebody, or to, our dynamic playmakers that can, run away from people, make people miss in their routes. And so I would say, yeah, just a 50-50, go-getter, somebody that you can trust if you got press man and, there's the safety goes the other way. Good luck. And if you have somebody that can do that consistently, I feel like that would make our offense, a lot more dangerous.
All right, we'll wrap it here. Something that I was talking about during the season and then after the season when I dug back into it was, you had injuries in the secondary. Obviously, you lose an All-Pro in Jair Alexander, and you're trying to. Eric Stokes is trying to get healthy. Carrington Valentine dealing with health. Keyshawn Nixon moving from the slot to outside, which he had never done before. And I felt like one of the reasons, and I'm not just saying this because you're standing here or sitting here, is that your safety play was outstanding. Like teams like X was complaining that teams didn't even try you down the field because they just were like, well, what are we going to do? Like if we do that, like Xavier McKinney is going to go take the ball away. Yeah. But as a defender, are you guys feeling like, okay, we have that on tape now. What is the next step for the safety room to be like, okay, for us to be, we were a top 10 defense in all these metrics. We want to be a top 5. We want to be the best defense in the league. Where does the safety room have to contribute to make that happen?
Yeah, I feel like we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg as far as disguise goes.
You talked about that a number of times during the season.
Yeah, a lot last year, for sure. Like, that was something that we definitely had to rep a lot of times near the end of the season. I feel like we got, we were tricking quarterbacks into, throwing it where we wanted to for the most part. But I feel like we can even take another step into that just because, we're going to be adding some stuff to the defense naturally. That's kind of just how a defense progresses. You go through your first year and you want your base stuff to be, really solid, like something that you could call every down. And then I feel like into this second year, we can just add stuff and play off of what we already have in our, portfolio to where, we've shown so many things on tape, especially things that, have been effective that, now we can disguise and show something like that might be coming. And it just gives us a lot more possibilities into what we can do, disguise wise. So I feel like we can, definitely have an impact there. I would also say just I can speak for myself, just my tackling. I want to be a single digit tackle guy or missed tackle guy. Next year, just somebody that's, if a ball squirts out, just somebody that gets it on the ground, gets to the next down. I feel like that'll be, really effective for our defense just because we want to be a defense that you have to drive the whole field. You're not getting any, one play touchdowns or anything easy. So, yeah.
Was it the Arizona game? Was that the peanut punch game for you?
Yeah. You threw me off. But,
I'm sorry. No, I was thinking about some of the great tackles that you had, and I remember that game in particular.
Absolutely. But I just feel like if I could, get people down on the ground at a higher clip, we already got a bunch of guys that, are playmakers, so it'll only add to, the threats of our defense.
All right, I said last thing, but this is really the last thing. The conversation internally with the team. You have the season, you have some time to decompress. Now we're starting to get into, you guys got Zoom meetings, you got off-season activities coming up here. What is the group chat like? What is being said? What are the conversations like? Hey, we got to lock in. Like give me some insight into what's being said. As much as you can, obviously.
Yeah. It's nothing too crazy. Really, guys just excited to come back.
The
Excited.
Bears still suck. I get it.
Yeah, all that. That's common though. That's year round. But no, yeah. I feel like we're just excited to, get with the guys that are just, coming into our program, and just honestly get to work. Like get to, back into the playbook to a spot where we're all, back comfortable, back caught up, and yeah, really just hit the ground running. I feel like, we've kind of you spend a long enough time away from football, you start to miss it a little bit.
All right, thanks to Evan Williams for joining the show. Of course, always awesome to talk with him. A lot of great insight in there. I thought I had a blast talking to him and getting a chance to get to know him a little bit. Every time we talk, I feel like I'm getting a chance to get to know him a little bit more. So a cool thing that we have going here and hopefully many more of these to come. Live tonight after the draft, after the Packers finish the first round. So not after they make their pick. We will go live after the first round is over to react to their pick because you never know what might happen. If they trade out of the first round, all the more reason to wait because, hey, look, they might trade back into the first round. That fifth-year option, certainly an appealing contractual tool at their disposal. Live Thursday, live Friday. That Thursday live show will be your Friday podcast, but we will have a bonus podcast Friday night after rounds 2 and 3 live on our YouTube page. So go subscribe on our YouTube page. Go subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Go follow me on social media so you can stay locked on Packers.